Okay, so with extension strategies, you have to get the definition right. I'm not having my class going through like saying extension strategies are strategy used to extend the life of a product. That's not good enough, right? You've got to say extension strategies are used during the maturity stage of the product life cycle. It's got to be during the maturity, because why would you bother doing it during the growth stage? Because the product is already doing well. You don't need to extend it to prolong the life of the product. So it's strategy used during the maturity stage of the product life cycle to prolong the life of the product. Please have that as a definition. Okay, here are some examples of extension strategies. So you could extend the product range. So for example, Marmite have been trying to come up with loads of different products like Marmite chocolate. You could do loads of advertising. You can reduce the price. So Muller Rice, if you notice, is almost always on sale, like constantly on sale. But as well as reducing the price, they've actually gone for different sizes down here. And things like Jaffa Cake Mini, they've gone for different sizes. This one down here, adding value, is coming up with like a different feature. So when everyone was getting bored of the Wii, they added this bit at the end, which meant that you could kind of twist the controller. Again, it was completely rubbish, but everyone got excited. It's a bit like when people were bored of the Xbox 360, they came up with the Kinect, and again, it was useless. Now, rebranding is a really big time option. You can go for Starburst used to be called Opal Foods. Like, I refuse to call them Starburst, still they're still Opal Foods to me. Although I used to call them Opal Foods, so clearly I couldn't spell. Anyway, and then the final one is new packaging. Now, lots of products have gone for new packaging. Now, with all those things, you have to be able to think of one downside of each one. If you can't think of a downside, you're never going to get more than 4 out of 8 in the exam. I'm going to show that in that next part. Right, this question will come up in the exam. It just comes up every single year, and they say evaluate extension strategies you might use, basically. Now, the key thing here is evaluate. I can't tell you how many of you don't evaluate, and then instead of getting 8, the maximum you can possibly get is 4. It doesn't matter how many you come up with, you'll still only get 4. Right, so let's go through some extension strategies. I'm going to do that on the next page. So this is how you should structure your answer. So first of all, you could say an example of an extension strategy, like rebrand. Oh. As soon as you say one, you've got to say an advantage and also a disadvantage. So let's think about it. With rebranding, what's an advantage of rebranding? You could say, well, it will be, people will see something new in the shop, so they'll find it really exciting. It might be a better brand name. Either way, it might make people start looking at that product and thinking, oh, I haven't seen that before, I'm going to go for that. But obviously, the big disadvantage of rebranding is people might not recognise the product, so you have to spend a lot of money in trying to tell people, maybe by advertising, that you've rebranded it. And that could be a bit of a mistake. But a second one is you could, so what's another good example? Okay, change size. So you could change size and make it into a smaller product or a bigger one. For example, they used to have Cadbury's buttons, then they made Cadbury's giant buttons. These are hula hoops. Now they've got, I don't know what they're called, like big hula hoops. Anyway, what's a good thing about changing size? Again, it might make customers excited. They might think, oh, this is different now. I'm really excited about trying this new big Jaffa cake, or whatever it be. But obviously the disadvantage of it is the new size might not be as good. So for example, like Jaffa Cake Minis, I'm really not happy with the amount of Jaffa compared to biscuit ratio. It just doesn't work. So the product might not be as good. You'd pick maybe a third one, and a third one would be maybe change flavour. So people were bored of Jaffa cakes, right? So the good thing about changing flavour is you could go for like a raspberry Jaffa cake, and people might be thinking, oh, this is new, this is exciting, I'll go for this. But the big disadvantage of changing flavour is the new flavour might be minging, and people like, has anyone actually had a raspberry Jaffa cake? It's just not right. It's just not right at all. I'm trying to think of another one. Obviously, changing packaging. Good thing is it might be more exciting. I mean, basically, the advantage for all these ones is very similar. The big advantage is it starts making people want to look at the product and try it again. But you've really got to hit those disadvantages. Now, for an 8-mark question, I'd come up with at least 4. If I had extra time in the exam, I'd come up with a 5th. The key thing is an advantage, a disadvantage for each one, and then finally, right at the end, a conclusion. And in that conclusion, just say which one you think is best and why you think it's best.